Let me tell you a story. Once there was a butterfly, and on this very particular day, this butterfly decided to land in none other than Jamin's garden. Jamin, being the hospitable person that he is, said, "Welcome, welcome, butterfly. Thank goodness you're here. I'll give you food, I'll give you water, I'll be a bed and breakfast, I'll be whatever you need. Please, make my garden your home." And it did. I even noticed that this particular butterfly had an affinity for kale, and I'm like, all right, nice, me too. But then it happened. We're on the window. This is cabbage worm, aka that little white butterfly. And as you can imagine, cabbage worms love cabbage. I really didn't know how this infestation got so out of hand so quickly. I was thinking, was this just the first wave of many waves to come? Are there hundreds more caterpillars on their way to mangle my kale? That was a disaster. Outside of the kale tragedy in the garden this week, there's a lot more that has changed. The tomatoes have been a little bit lackluster. They've been struggling a lot with spider mites still. The kale up until this point has been the star of the garden. I've had plenty of kale to sustain me through several meals each week throughout the entire summer. And you know what? It's a cool feeling. Definitely one of the main reasons that I wanted to get into vegetable growing. I wanted to chase that feeling of self-sufficiency and the feeling of being able to do things on my own for myself. Outside of the kale, I'm still making an active effort to revitalize my garden with some flowers. Actually, in a weird twist of fate, some of the plants that I am most excited about right now are flowers. And maybe that's just because I've never planted flowers before. It's never really been my kind of thing, but I am very excited about the flowers that I've chosen. I'm growing some Phacelia, which has these super cool, frilly purple flowers when they bloom. I'm also growing some crimson clover. I love red flowers. I love red plants in general, so I'm super excited to see those bloom in the coming months. I started growing some mammoth sunflowers about a month ago. From what I can tell, I kind of got to the party a little bit late on that one, especially with something that can grow up to 10 to 12 feet tall. I would imagine that it needs a lot of time to grow, and I planted these last month. So right now they're about a foot and a half tall maybe. They have 9 feet to go. I'm not exactly sure if we'll be able to fully bloom by the end of the season or by the end of fall. But who's to say? I'm still hopeful. I really love giant sunflowers. I have never actually grown some myself, but I always love visiting fields of sunflowers, and I always thought it would be really cool to have these towering flowers in your own garden. So super excited about that. Sunflowers also seem to be a really big attractor for bees and really just about any other pollinator and beneficial insect. There's a lot of helpful charts and information that I have seen online that kind of list what types of pollinators are attracted to specific flowers. And what I started to notice is that sunflowers are kind of a catch-all. They really bring in the entire crowd, and that's great for me because I love sunflowers. I love how they look in the garden. Cilantro plants are cold weather plants. They really prefer cold weather and cold environments, not super extreme heat like we are prone to experiencing here in California. So going into it, I kind of already suspected that I wouldn't be getting a full blooming, blossoming, and super productive cilantro plant right out of the gate. I knew I already wanted to send it to flower. I was okay with the cilantro bolting because I wanted it to flower and I wanted it to get to its final stage, which is seed production. Now, I've never harvested my own seeds for anything, but the more that I've learned about seeds this year and starting things from seed, and especially having grown a little bit more confident in starting my own plants from seed, I've been really curious about harnessing that and experimenting with saving some seeds of my own. So we had a bit of drama in the garden this week, sure, but there's more to the story. One of my favorite memories as a kid was seeing caterpillar nests. Now, I grew up in a very rural area. We were kind of out in the middle of the woods, and every season, caterpillar nests would start to appear. And I would remember every year at some point, thousands upon thousands of caterpillars would hatch, and you'd see them, wiggling around in the caterpillar nests. And as a kid, I always found that so fascinating and fun. I loved caterpillar season. But as time went on, something strange kind of happened. I stopped seeing caterpillar nests altogether. They were gone. For a while, I really wondered what happened. How could there be so many caterpillars one year and then the next, there's nothing? And it wasn't until much later that I started to realize why. Caterpillars, just like anything, need specific things to grow. They need specific things to live. And at some point, for some reason, the caterpillars didn't have that anymore. I think this is part of the reason why I was so excited when that white butterfly chose my garden to make it its home. I had a cabbage worm infestation. No, I don't want to let the cabbage worms keep eating my kale. I'm not going to do that. But as I was removing them from the garden, I was trying to figure out what to do with them. My partner has a fascination with caterpillars. She loves caterpillars, and I thought it would be suiting to save the caterpillars for her and to see if we could make a little habitat. It's a small effort, sure, but it just seemed so sad to waste this opportunity of having this kind of really cool thing happen in the garden and try to get rid of them as soon as possible and treat them as pests. There's the common thinking still that dandelions are weeds. Dandelions are actually really great for bees and butterflies and so much more. And people don't take advantage of that. A lot of times just because people don't know. And so I didn't want to make the same mistake. As we get older, I feel like it's common to miss the things that we felt as a kid. Summer is most oftentimes where kids had the most fun. You'd get to run around, you'd get to play, you'd get to explore. And as you get older, you don't really have as many chances to do that anymore. And then summer would be over. So I always try and remember, as I get older, to cherish the times when I feel like I can explore, when I can have fun, when I can be free, when I can draw, when I can write, when I can take an interest in something new. Hopefully these little guys will grow up to be butterflies, and I'm happy nonetheless that they get a chance to continue on. I try and hold on to the things, to take care of the things that make me feel like a kid again. Because sooner or later, you're grown up. Just like that.